What up, everybody? This is the Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dennis Tien, recording remote tonight from my real live medical office in Dedham, Massachusetts. This is the place to be for 1 hour of commercial-free talk on the New England Patriots and the NFL. Joining me, as always, the CEO of Hedge Better, Justin Fine. Justin, what is going on today, my man? At long last, we have something good to talk about in New England. This might have been the best win the Patriots have had in a long time.
It was a great win. And you know what? I think what really put it into perspective for me was the last win the Patriots had in Miami. I was there. And that seems like forever ago, right? That was like pre-COVID, 2019, right? I remember being at that game, and that seems like a lifetime ago. And so that really did put it into perspective, just how long of a drought it's been in Miami against Tua, against this franchise, and to come away with the win like that in what really did wind up being a battle. I think it said a lot. I think it was kind of a statement game for the Patriots.
Yeah, I think it was really a watershed moment. I really do for this franchise. And when we talked last week about being disappointed because it looked the same for the Pats this year as it has looked for the last couple of years, and just how disappointing that was in week one. And then to come out this week, and this is more about like what we expected from this team in a lot of ways. So I thought that was just so encouraging to finally be able to see, this team actually look like a real NFL team.
Not only that, but, I think about this team last year. I think about them, the last couple of years. In this was a team that would have found a way to lose this game in years prior, right? Like this is a team that always seemed to be coming out on the wrong side of things, getting the short end of the stick when it came to close games, when it came to these battles. Something always just seemed to go their way, go against them, I should say. And this was a team that really found a way to battle and win and go tit for tat, go eye for an eye, and find a way to win a tough game that, like I said, they would have lost in years prior.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that was actually going to be what I kicked it off with.
All right.
So let's talk about that because you are 1000% right. This is the kind of game the Patriots have been losing for the last 5 or 6 years. Right. They had every excuse to lose this game. They had things go wrong. They made some bad boneheaded mistakes. Mm-hmm. They gave up a horrible punt return for a touchdown. They had every excuse to lose this game, Justin, and yet they still found a way to win. And I'm sorry, I put that on Mike Vrabel because when Mike Vrabel got hired, what was the first thing we said? They're going to be tough. They're not going to back down. If nothing else, they'll be resilient. Right. Well, guess what? It's week 2 of the Mike Vrabel era, and they have already shown that this team has mental toughness and resiliency like they haven't had in the last few years. I think back, Justin, to last year's week 1 game against the Bengals, and that was a game they won, and that surprised us. Every single thing went right for them in that game, right? You know what I mean? And then you look at the game after that in week 2, they had Seattle last year in week 2. A lot of things went wrong and they fell apart. That's been the New England Patriots for the last years. They needed everything to go right to win. And when anything went wrong, it just fell apart. This was a different Patriots team on Sunday. This was a team that showed resiliency and mental toughness. And I think it comes from the coach.
It definitely comes from the coach. I mean, I don't think there's any two ways about it. We said this at the very beginning, as soon as they hired him, we said, this will at least hopefully help them fix their mental toughness problems and make them a more resilient team. I mean, that's exactly what happened. I mean, everyone's talking about that play, the Antonio Gibson kick return for a touchdown, following the punt return. And, you got Vrabel chasing him down on the sideline, right? And I thought that was kind of just like a perfect microcosm for everything that we wanted to see about this Patriots team, not only in terms of, punching back when you get punched in the mouth, but having a coach who's just in the thick of things and who will get excited and who will show emotion, and that will just kind of help your team stay competitive and keep their spirits up like that. That was everything that we wanted to see in that one play. I think it summed it all up well.
I agree with that. And yeah, I think Vrabel brings a lot of energy to the position. He really does. And he's very different than Bill Belichick. He's very different. In fact, this is before your time, and I think I've heard a few people say this and I completely agree with it. Vrabel reminds me a lot more of Parcells and just the way he talks. And he's kind of got this like street fighter kind of, kid around the block kind of toughness to him, where he brings energy. He's tough. He's kind of old school tough. Yeah. And I love that about him. I think that it clearly showed on the football field on Sunday.
It did. And, you talk about the guy being a player's coach and in resonating with the team and in the locker room. And I mean, even just after the game, I don't know if you caught the clip of him standing outside the locker room greeting every single one of the Patriots players that came back to the locker room. You know what I mean? Those are the little things. You know what I mean? The little things that I guarantee you Bill Belichick wasn't doing. I guarantee you Gerard Mayer wasn't doing. Just those little connections to shake everybody's hands, give them a pat on the back, tell them that you're happy for them, tell them what they did right, this and that. Those little things really resonate after going out and getting a win like that. And I think it shows why the players respond to him. And I think it shows why the players are picking up and emanating his persona.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Some other things I loved about this game, Justin, on Sunday. And by the way, I took the Patriots on the money line on Sunday, and we're going to get into all that in a little bit. We have a guest today. We have Matt Prisco from the Bettors In Law podcast who's going to come in, and we're going to do a little segment making some picks. So I should have mentioned that already, but look out for that. That's coming up in a few minutes. We're going to have him on. But I did take the Pats on the money line. So, because I know I trashed them last week on the podcast, and I said they were going to get smoked. But we record on Tuesday. And as the week went on, I started to convince myself, and maybe it was more my heart than my head, that they were going to win this game. One of the things I loved about this win for the Patriots is I love the way they managed Drake May. And I think that you can't deny the fact that May had his most successful game of his career. And I think it had a lot to do with what they asked from him to do. They didn't ask him to throw 46 times like they did in week one. They limited his dropbacks. They had him under center. They gave him the freedom to run the ball, and they ran the ball with Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson. And when they really needed to take some of the pressure off their young quarterback, they had ways of doing that with their running game and their screen game that kind of worked. And I thought this was in my book, a textbook way for what they want to ask of Drake May in the first half of this year.
Well, I mean, 100%. And this is what, you kind of hinted at it, but this is what we said was lacking in week one. And that was for what we consider to be a talented committee of running backs to kind of bear the load, right? And kind of take the pressure off of Drake May, have some success and some efficiency on the ground, open up the passing game for Drake May a little bit, not put too much on his shoulders, both in terms of the workload and the pressure. And I think we saw that kind of come to fruition and play out very well. And the other thing too is, they let Drake May just go out and be an athlete, right? Let him go out and be an athlete. Let him go out and make some plays, but don't ask the guy to do a million things. Don't ask him to do too much. And it just was the perfect combination, I feel like.
Exactly, because it's not like this was, for example, like the Mac Jones Buffalo game where they're like, we're going to run the ball every play. I mean, They asked May to do some things.
Right.
And May hit some big pass. I mean, he had 132 quarterback rating. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He ran for 1 more.
Right.
So they did ask him to do a lot. They just didn't, like you said, they didn't ask him to do too much. They struck the balance on him. And I felt like when there were those times in the game where I felt like the pressure was mounting a little. And, they're the kind of points in the game where a young quarterback might feel pressure to do too much.
Right.
And we know that May has been a little prone to that in his career. They were able to kind of fall back on some other things that worked. And I think that was one of the reasons they were so successful on Sunday. Justin, was this the best game of Drake May's career to this point?
I mean, I would have to say yes. I mean, I think back to last year, he had a couple of flashes, but really, really nothing. I think of this caliber. You think about it. He was great through the air. 2 passing touchdowns, like you said, a running touchdown. He seemed kind of in command and in control. And not only that, but he was resilient, right? He was tough. He didn't waver. Last week we saw a tale of two halves with Drake May, right?
Yes.
This week it was a consistent performance from start to finish. And without that consistent performance, the Patriots lose this game. So I do think this was Drake May's best performance as a Patriot, especially when you take everything together in totality.
Whenever they asked him to make a play, he made one.
He did. Exactly.
And I agree with you. This was the best game of his career. And I'm going to give you a few reasons why. Number one is he had his highest QB rating ever as a starting quarterback. So that's a huge thing right there, right? Mm-hmm. Number two is he didn't turn the ball over once. I don't even think he had one play that I would say was close to being a turnover. And if you look at every game that he started and finished so far in his career, with one exception, he's had at least one turnover. Do you know what that exception was?
Say that one more time. Sorry.
What was the only game that he, besides Sunday, that he started and finished and didn't have a turnover, either an interception or a fumble? You'll never guess it. It was Jacksonville and London last year where they lost by like 10 points.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
But he didn't turn the ball over in that game. But that was a good game for him, but not his best. I mean, so he didn't turn the ball over, which I think is a huge step for him. And then he had 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdown passes. He made some big time throws that, quite frankly, there are a lot of starting quarterbacks in this league right now that could not have made some of the throws that May made. So I think you take it in totality. Yes, this was his best game. Yeah,
totally. And his best game, the Patriots as a franchise, their best win, arguably in a couple of years. And I think it was just, it was encouraging for a lot of different reasons. And these are the types of games I expect the Patriots to have more of these type of games than not, right? I don't think they're going to be out there smoking teams by 2, 3, 4 touchdowns, right? By the same token, I don't really expect them to be getting the doors blown off, a bunch of times. I expect them to be in dogfights. Like, this is a team that I expect to be playing tough games, a lot of one possession games here and there. And you're going to have to find ways to win those games. So it was very encouraging because I think they're going to find themselves in these situations a lot this year.
It was. Let's take a second, Justin, to look at it from the Miami perspective a little too. Now, you famously picked Mike McDaniels to be the first coach fired a few weeks ago, and your pick continues to look better. I mean, I'm trying to look at this from Miami's perspective, right? And like you're playing a team that you're 7-0 against. Your quarterback is 7-0 against. They haven't beat you in 6 years in your stadium, and they really hand you the game on a platter. If you're looking at it from Miami's perspective, and you hand it back to them. And I'm talking about a punt return for a touchdown, and then you give up a kick return for a touchdown if you're Miami. How about this? Miami's driving for the winning score, and they take back-to-back a false start and a delay of game penalty to make it 2nd and 20 instead of 2nd and 10. Like, Miami made a ton of mistakes in this game. So I think that whatever happened on Sunday, I think the needle, the doomsday clock, if you will, we talked about the Belichick doomsday clock for a couple of years. The Mike McDaniels doomsday clock definitely ticked closer to midnight for sure.
Totally. And not to mention, they got to go play Buffalo next week. And I find it very difficult to believe it. Yeah, the short week. I find it very difficult to think anything's going to change in week 3. So yeah, this Miami team, but you know what? It's like, it's a combination of things. Like, I feel like this Miami team has a ton of egos and a ton of locker room cancers in that organization. I mean, the coach, we've said this many times. I think he's so outmatched. I don't think he's a leader. Frankly, I kind of think he's a clown. Even just ownership, there's been trouble with this ownership going back years. You even think about the whole, what was it? Like the tampering and Brady. And if you this has just been a very dysfunctional organization from top to bottom throughout the years. And I think you're really starting to see the cracks. I mean, this is a team that struggled to beat playoff teams above 500 the last couple of years. Like, they've kind of had this false sense of success, right? They really haven't had much success to speak of in terms of, playoff games, winning big games, beating good teams. So I think it's all just kind of coming to a head right now for Miami. And I think Mike McDaniels he's going to have to bear the brunt of it, but I think deservingly so.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. You can go back to 2023, in the middle of the 2023 season, when McDaniels was still a hot commodity and, supposed rising star. And I
Yeah,
said on this podcast, and you know
did.
this, that
Yeah.
I thought this guy he gave me Pete Carroll with the Patriots vibes, which is like a great coordinator who can scheme things out, but has no idea how to run and control the locker room.
Right.
Pete Carroll, of course, learned how to do that at USC, came back to the NFL and had a great career. Who knows whether McDaniels will do that? But, I do think that, in spite of his inability to maybe handle the whole locker room. I mean, look, I do think the guy can coach offense. And I think you saw that on Sunday. It's like you're watching Tua, and it does amaze me how much the Patriots struggle to stop Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
Still, even on Sunday's game, like some of those passes were just not good passes, but yet still somehow they managed to find the mark. And I think McDaniels does deserve some of that credit.
Well, look, I mean, as we've seen time and time again across the league, like you said, there's a difference between a good coordinator and a good head coach, right? I mean, Josh McDaniels is a perfect example of that, right?
Yep.
I consider him an amazing offensive coordinator. I'm so glad we have him. Extremely talented guy. Never really had any success as a head coach, right? Multiple times he's tried. And so there is a difference between a good offensive mind, a good coordinator, and the ability to be a head coach. And I think Mike McDaniels is just a perfect example of that. Not to mention the fact that, look, for good or for bad, he is definitely a unique cat in terms of his personality and in his persona. Like, he's not the type of guy you think of when you think of someone running and managing or having a big role in an NFL franchise.
I mean, he's a very esoteric guy, and I do get that it's a new world, and those guys now maybe find themselves in positions of leadership, and that's fine. But I still think when you're talking about an NFL locker room, at some point, you do need some of that kind of just old-fashioned leadership, 100%. Frankly, that I don't think McDaniels is really capable of giving. And I think that you saw a period at the beginning of this thing where it worked, but each year you're seeing sort of diminishing returns on that. And now it's just falling apart.
Yeah, totally. And I think he's lost that locker room. I think you're seeing it, guys like Tyreek Hill, guys like Tua, guys in that defense. I think, you're seeing the squabbles on the sidelines, the comments in the press, in the pressers. It's just, I think it's going to be a tough year for Miami. I don't see it getting any better for him.
But all that said, I mean, Tua did drive us crazy a little bit at times on Sunday, and I'm thinking specifically of that one pass he threw up to Tyreek Hill, where it's that was basically a punt, and there's two Patriots there. It was a terrible pass. It was wobbling, and somehow no one's there to make the play. And I think that does call into question. I mean, if you're going to question one side of the ball from Sunday, in my opinion, we should talk about this defense. And this defense, I think so far through 2 weeks, it's early returns, but I think the defense has been really disappointing. And I know Gonzalez is hurt, but I still think independent of that, I expected this to be a better defense. And they really are struggling out there. And I thought they struggled on Sunday at times.
Look, they're definitely struggling. I mean, I do agree. I thought they would be better, but I mean, look, am I shocked? They're playing without the best piece of their secondary, arguably the best player on that defense. They just let their defensive captain, who was a starting safety, walk, a couple days before the season started. So it's when you take that into consideration, I still think this team is finding their footing. You got some new faces out there that are still trying to, I think, adjust and come into their own in terms of their role. And again, you still don't have your starting cornerback, one of the best cornerbacks in the league, who can really just change everything you want to do out there on that side of the ball. So I'm not going to panic, and I'm not going to say that we can fully and accurately evaluate them until they're a couple weeks into a healthy Christian Gonzalez. That's just my opinion. But I do wish that what we were seeing now was still a little bit better than what we're seeing. I mean, it's definitely concerning. I don't think Christian Gonzalez is going to come back in and just completely right all the wrongs, but I do think he's going to make a big difference when he's back and healthy.
I mean, it will be interesting to see, because I think that really is the question. When Gonzalez comes back, what's the impact going to be, and is he, how much is he going to fix this mess? But I would also say, Justin, and I have no specific information about this, except that, I mean, it's Tuesday. He hasn't practiced in 7 or 8 weeks. He didn't practice last week. And I also feel like I have a hard time believing Gonzalez is going to like hit the ground running, at this point. So I feel like even if he does come back, it's probably going to be in a limited role for a couple weeks. And I think that, what you see with this defense is kind of be what you're going to get for at least a couple weeks until Gonzalez can get up to full speed.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. Yeah, I don't expect him to come back and be 100% healthy. The other thing that I think is at least worth mentioning, and I guess it can be argued how much of an impact this actually makes, but his name is eluding me at the moment. But the defensive coordinator, they're out
Hank Williams.
They're out there this week without him. He had missed a significant chunk of time in the offseason. He misses week 2. So it's like, you go into Miami, a place that you haven't won in 6 years or 7 years, whatever, against a guy that quarterback you've
Terrell
never beat.
Terrell
Williams, yeah.
Right.
So you go in week 2 in an environment that you have had no success in recent memory, and you don't have your starting cornerback, your defensive captain, or your defensive coordinator. So, I mean, when you look at it like that, I can understand it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, missing Terrell Williams is definitely a huge factor in why this team is struggling right now. I don't know if Gonzalez is going to make a huge difference. I mean, we talked last week, Justin, a little bit about your concern level for Christian Gonzalez, and you were relatively non-concerned about him. What is your concern level now for him? I mean, is that needle moving at all?
I think I was a 6 last week. I think it's fair to say that, with each passing week that goes by that he's not out there, you start to wonder just how serious this is and how long it's going to take for him to come back, not only come back, but ramp up to full speed. So I think it's fair to say now that I'm probably like a 7 or an 8. But again, I think there's still a lot to be determined once he does come back and once we do see the extent of everything. But yeah, I'm definitely a little bit more concerned this week than I was last week.
Well, I'm super concerned about him.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go way back into the past. This is a name you've probably heard, but I doubt you remember. Christian Gonzalez reminds me a lot of Terry Glenn, the Patriots wide receiver who was super talented. And every time he was on the field, he tilted the field. Like he changed the way this team played when he was out there, because he was a true number 1 receiver. Yep. But he was kind of a head case, and he got hurt all the time. And there was questions about his toughness, and he never really met his potential as a wide receiver. And I'm looking at the way Gonzalez's career started, and he's in his 3rd year. He missed all of his first year, more or less. Last year was obviously a good year. Now we're starting off with this lingering hamstring injury. It's been 8 weeks. I'm worried about Christian Gonzalez. I really am. I mean, this is the kind of player that I think will drive you nuts if you're relying on him.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I definitely want a healthy Christian Gonzalez out there next week when you got a guy like DK Metcalf rolling into town, right? So I don't know what his status is for week 3 yet. I haven't heard anything yet. I don't know if you have, but I'm hoping he's out there and I'm hoping he can contribute because, he's a good.
I'll take like 25 snaps from him at this point.
Yeah.
Just give me 25 third down and passing down snaps against DK Metcalf. And I think that would be a huge win.
Totally agree.
All right, a couple more quick things, and then we're going to move to around the league, and we got our guests coming in a minute, so that'll be great, Matt Prisco. I do want to bring up a few quick more things about the Pats. Number one is this is something I should probably take medicine on, but since we're talking Pats, I'm going to bring it up now. I believe I said that the Patriots should think about cutting Ramondre Stevenson in the preseason. Well, let me just say right now, that was wrong. That was stupid. Like you saw on Sunday how important a player like him can be to this offense and to this young quarterback. So obviously this might have been the best game Ramondre Stevenson has had in a while.
Well, it was a great game. And I think one of the things that we said, I guess maybe the two things that we had said in the past about Ramondre, and they kind of both feed into each other. And we said, if he can fix these two things, and when he's not doing these two things, he's a pretty good back, and he can contribute a lot to that offense. The first of which is not being heavily relied on as a bell cow. I mean, yes, I know he's taking the majority of snaps, but you got Antonio Gibson, you got Travion Henderson. You don't have to rely on Ramondre as like a bell cow back right now to do it all, right? And when they did need to rely on him as a bell cow back, we saw a huge uptick in his turnovers, right? He was fumbling the ball a lot. And you could argue that was maybe due to some of the overuse. So when you're able to kind of give him the appropriate amount of work, and that cuts down on his turnovers, you're able to see kind of the best parts of him, which is the fact that he's a pretty decent runner. I think he's better in the passing game than he gets some credit for.
He's definitely better in the passing game than he gets credit
exactly.
for. He showed that on Sunday. I mean, that was a terrific catch.
He did. It was a fantastic catch. And so what we've seen at least, and I know he wasn't anything to write home about in week 1, but what we saw last week was what you can get out of Ramondre Stevenson when he's used properly and he's limiting his turnovers.
All right, I'm going to give you three more quick Pats takes, and then we're gonna bring in our guest. Number one is I love what I saw from Will Campbell this week and Jarrett Wilson. That left side of the line, people have been worried about it. Mm-hmm. I think Campbell's been really good through his first 2 weeks, and I think that we should forget about the absurdity of how long his arms are and focus more on how he's playing. And he's playing pretty damn good for a rookie, I think.
He is playing pretty good. I'm not worried about the arms, but correct me if I'm wrong. He's got 3 or 4 penalties now through 2 weeks.
He does.
So I do want to see, and he is a rookie. I get it, but I do want to see him clean that up a little bit. But
he's not getting tooled out there.
No, that's what I'm saying.
He's holding his own when he's playing. He's going against a good player this week, Bradley Chubb.
He's holding his own, and I agreed. I think we said that the short arms thing was ridiculous. I think that stat came down to like 1/4 of an inch, and I'm not going to be bothered to lose a wink of sleep at night over 1/4 of an inch in your arm. So yeah, I agree. That was all overblown, and I think he's holding his own pretty nicely.
And for what it's worth, he's like, if you believe in the PFF gradings, and I know there's a lot of controversy about that, he's grading out really well on PFF so far. Okay, next one. I'm not worried at all about Stephon Diggs. Like, to me, it's a miracle this guy is even out there on the field. I think he's caught like 4 or 5 passes each of these first 2 games. As long as he stays healthy and continues to get his legs under him, the big plays are going to come from Stephon Diggs, but he's coming back from an ACL. None of us even thought he would be out there in September. It's just going to take some time.
Totally. And I think, one of the most valuable things you can get from Stephon Diggs right now is his leadership. I mean, you saw him pregame in week 2, kind of hyping that offense up, that whole team saying, last week left a bad taste in his mouth, getting the guys ready to come out there and compete. I mean, if you can right now, like you said, we weren't even expecting him really to be out there. If you can get 4 or 5 catches from him, you can get his leadership, you can get his kind of his veteran presence, keeping that team afloat. I'll take that for a couple of weeks until he can ramp up to full speed later on in the year.
Exactly, 100%. And then lastly, we in New England, we're no strangers to the fact that free agency can really be a mixed bag, and just because you spend money doesn't necessarily mean you get big results. But I will say I did like what I saw from Milton Williams and Harold Landry on Sunday. And if there's a silver lining to how bad this defense has been at times this year, I do think they've been able to get pressure on the quarterback. And Williams, of course, had a huge, really game-saving sack on 4th down on Sunday. So I think he's been good so far.
Yeah, and I think we said too, even though we liked their secondary, the strength of this defense, or the strength of this team, arguably both sides of the ball, their biggest strength might be their front 7, and hopefully their ability to put pressure on opposing offenses. And that's what we've been seeing to an extent, and we need to keep seeing it. But yeah, Harold Landry, both games. I mean, even though in the lost week 1, he got some good pressure in Geno Smith.
He's got 3.5 sacks.
3.5 sacks. You know what I mean? So he's coming to play. And then the combination of Williams and Barmore on the inside. I mean, I think that's just as good as any out there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this team, if they can get a healthy Gonzalez out there, what that front 7 can do once the coverage picks things up a little bit.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get to our guest, because I see he's popped on to Zoom. So I want to welcome Matt Prisco from the Bettors In Law podcast to the Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots podcast. Matt is gonna hopefully be a regular up here on our podcast. And, we're looking at him. He makes picks and we need picks. Desperately, we need picks. So Matt, welcome to the podcast. How you doing, my friend? How's it going?
Thank you guys for having me. This is awesome. Love to be on as much as you guys want.
So I've been on Facebook and I've been following some of your picks and appreciating the videos you've been putting out on Facebook. But before we even get into what you like and what you don't like this week, I want to tell you we're going to start a new segment on this podcast called My $500. And I basically took $500 and put it in my DraftKings account, and I'm going to see how long I can make it last for. And that could vanish in 1 week. We all know that, right? But I took a tough start in week 1. I got clobbered in week 1. And I'm not even going to go back to that, but I recovered strong this week. I like Buffalo. I like Seattle, and I took the Patriots on the money line. And there was one other one. I lost on the Eagles, and I won on Thursday night for the the Packers. So I had a good week this week. Tell us a little bit about, just recapping this past week, about like some of the things that you saw and what you liked and what you didn't like this week.
Yeah, so good on you for having a good week. I had the worst week and then doing this show for 3 years last week. So I'm digging out of a hole. I had Denver as my best bet last week. I was going against a lot of professionals, and that questionable call at the end of the game on a 60-yard field goal, missed field goal.
Very questionable call.
I celebrated, did a couple laps around the house, come back, and they're lining up to kick another field goal. So that didn't go so hot for me, but that's all right. I will say in the last 2 years doing this.
Yeah, what was the number in that game before? But in case people don't know.
Yeah, good call. It closed Denver -1.5. So it's like a $5 million swing.
Yeah. So if you didn't see the end of the game and you're listening to the podcast, basically the Colts lined up for a 60-yard field goal at the end of the game. By the way, they totally mismanaged the clock. I don't know what the hell their coach was doing, settling for a 60-yard field goal.
Settled.
And he shanks the field goal. And that's when bettors like you that took Denver were probably celebrating because you got the cover. And then they called, what was that garbage penalty?
Roughing the center.
Roughing the center, which the Patriots got burned by in the Meadowlands a few years ago, if you remember, and lost the game because of that. And the Colts ended up having to kick. It made it a 45-yard kick, and that's a chip shot on turf. Game over.
Not to mention the flag was thrown after the ball hit the net. So that got me. That got me good.
Someone check that guy's DraftKings account.
You check things, but we're gonna bounce back. In the 2 years doing the show, so what the concept of our show is we give out 4 likes and then a best bet each. So in the 2 years doing this with my brother-in-law, hence the Better-in-Laws and the title of the podcast, I've been 27-6-3 in best bets.
Nice.
But this year, 0-2. So I've never started 0-2. So we're looking to bounce back. Who were your first
2 best bets this so far? Denver was one?
Denver was one. And who do we take in week 1? We took, I got this right here. Hold on, guys. 1 sec. I had, did I take? It's a good question. It was, Atlanta +2.5. Missed field goal. Field goal.
So
I should remember that.
Back-to-back weeks, miss the field goals coming and biting you in the ass. But that just means you got a strong week 3 coming.
Strong week 3, but week 1 it was a better week overall for me. But that missed field goal at the end. 2 games that the team I had was leading the whole game for the most part and didn't get the job done in the end. So
you know how many times in my time that I've been betting football games where like when you're red hot and everything is hitting, and then you all of a sudden you get that one beat that's just like the bad beat, that something crazy happens and you lose at the end, and then the next thing you know, you just completely tank into a losing streak from that.
It's just what happens. It is gambling has a fun way to the highest of highs, the lowest of lows. That's what it is. But I always tell people, be patient, especially in the NFL. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You're going to have weeks where you're hot. You're going to have weeks where you're not. It's just the way it goes. It's the ebbs and flows, but in the long run, it's how you end up cashing out and being up. So we finished over 60% both years on the show. So excited to We'll get there. It's a good time for me to try to get the bad stuff out of the way. Now I come on your podcast and we're ready to rock and roll.
Pick the winners. Yeah. So
That's
my 500 is at 820 now. So I want to make that grow because I got 4 kids. I got colleges to pay for, mortgages to pay. So tell us, who do you like this week? I did look at the lines today, so I do have a couple thoughts, but I want to hear from you what you're liking this week. And Justin, feel free to chime in at any time, with any questions or thoughts.
All right, guys. I got a few for you that I like out of the gate. I'll start with the least of my favorite of the few that I'll give you. It's going to look a little square, but I'm taking Kansas City -5.5 in New York. I think last week, probably game of the week might have been Dallas and the Giants. That game was insane.
Yeah.
The overtime game. But the Giants just find ways to lose. And I don't think there's on any planet the Giants are going to be able to do what they did offensively against Dallas this week against Kansas City. 0-2. Mahomes 0-2 for the first time in his career. First time he's lost 3 games in a row if you want to date back to the Super Bowl last year. This game you have a desperate Chiefs team. You have a desperate Patrick Mahomes. I expect a big show from the Kansas City team that everyone's counting out, including myself. I gave out the Chargers on our Futures podcast to win the AFC West this year. Just really like what that team's doing over there. And I thought Kansas City was going to take a step back. Super Bowl loser traditionally takes a step back. But this is still Patrick Mahomes, still Andy Reid. This Giants team is just a mess. I really don't think that the Giants are going to be able to compete much in this game. Sunday Night Football, even though it's in New York, it's showtime for Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs team to get it on.
Well, the first thing I want to say about that game is that number is big, right? For a Kansas City team coming off 2 losses, going across the country on the road on a Monday night to a Giants team that availed itself reasonably well those first 2 weeks, really should have won last week. That's a big 6.5 number. That puts your antennas up that something's up here, first of all.
5.5's out there too, so shop around if you there's plenty of 5.5s in the market, and it's kind of stayed there. And there's been some kind of split money early on in this game, but traditionally this is where you go against Kansas City. When Mahomes is a favorite of over 3 points, he's under 50% ATS in his career. So as good as the Chiefs are, this is the time to go against the Chiefs, but not now, not at 0-2. 0-2 teams, this is a good thing too. Teams that are 0-2 against the spread since 2010 are hitting at 60% in week 3. So just something I like to look for. And I think that makes sense, right? These teams are desperate. Oftentimes they're 0-2 overall. This is their season. You can't start 0-3. Many teams can't start 0-3 and then go and make a playoff run in the end. We see this think about Cincinnati last year when they were 0-2, and it came down to that last game against Pittsburgh. They won, but they still didn't get in. You start slow. How much do the Bengals wish that they showed up week 1 against that Patriots team last year when the Patriots beat them? Cost them a playoff spot. So teams know, like, you can't start 0-3 in this league. The AFC is loaded. There's going to be plenty of good teams. And look, the Chiefs have other losses coming. They can't slip up against this Giants team. They're in another class in talent, even though they are going to take a step back overall.
Yeah, I like that.
When people say the Chiefs are going to take a step back, I mean, what were they, 15-1 last year?
Well, right. I mean, naturally, yeah. Like what I mean by that is, like,
I agree with that. I agree with you 100%. Like I said that going back to last winter, like, they're still going to win like 10 games. It's just that, and they'll probably still make the playoffs, but I like that Chargers pick. I like Denver in the West. I like the Chargers in the West. I think it's a three horse race out there, but yeah, I mean, I've been on record saying that I don't think the Chiefs are going to win another Super Bowl, at least with this iteration of talent around Mahomes. Whether Mahomes gets that second chapter of his career like Brady got. I mean, not everyone gets that. Look at Cam Newton. He ended at 33. I've never won a Super Bowl. Look at Aaron Rodgers. He's struggling in his 40s. Not everyone does what Brady does. So, it'll be interesting to see if Mahomes gets that second chapter. But I think, they look like a wild card team. And this is a game, I agree with you. They should win. It's a good spot for them. I like that pick. What else you got? Go ahead, Justin.
I was just going to say one other thing. I think this Chiefs team, it's almost night and day when they, at least the last 2 years from what I've seen when they have Rashee Rice out there versus when they don't, right? And
Totally.
like you don't have Rashee Rice. Xavier Worthy gets hurt like the beginning of the game running into Travis Kelce last week. It's like they're relying on Tyquan Thornton to play valuable minutes for them, right? So, and I mean, he did actually have a nice catch at the end, that streak into the end zone. But nevertheless, like I think this Chiefs team is going to be a totally different team once Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are back healthy. So I'm not counting them out. The question is, like you said, with the Bengals, who were arguably the hottest team in football at the end of last season, can they make it? Can they prevent themselves from falling too far behind before they get to that point? You know,
Exactly. It's such a good point. They're a different team with Rashee Rice and Worthy on the field. Worthy, they got some news right before week 2. Almost went, didn't go. I expect he's going to be back in this game to give them an option. And even if he's out there less than 100%, which he will be,
right?
That's still a weapon that they can open up the field for. Because you're right. Like when you don't have those two guys running around, it's a whole different offense, especially when we see like the decline of Travis Kelce. The other thing I like to look at, guys, too, is like that game. Sure, it looks like on the box score the Eagles dominated them. They didn't. Like Travis Kelce going in for that touchdown, drops a pass, gets picked 100%. Off in the end zone. Game against the Eagles, you can't make those mistakes, right? So they were right there toe to toe in the Super Bowl rematch, and that was kind of a fluky play. Those are things I always look at too. Like now, there's a little bit of disrespect. What's that line if the Chiefs, do come back and beat the Chargers and then pull that game out last week? What does this line look like? You're looking at 9.5, 10 points right now on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah,
it's a great point because if Kelce catches that touchdown, it's a completely different game, and that one was right in his hands. I mean, you couldn't blame Mahomes for that particular pass. That was a great pass. What else do you like, Maddie?
All right, a couple other games. I know I just said I went with Denver last week, and I'm going back to the well here. I love Denver.
You learn your lesson.
You learn your lesson real quick. You have to just throw it out. You have to swallow your pride sometimes. Look, I just told you guys I think the Chargers are going to win the AFC West. I said that before the season. Denver going to LA, but who looks better than the Chargers right now other than in the AFC? They look awesome. Had the best win of week 1 going out and just taking care of business in Brazil against the Chiefs. Last night came back, looked great against Vegas, shut them right down. So why Denver? Yeah, we crazy. Denver going back off that heartbreaking loss. I just happen to love this spot for them. This is Denver or nothing for me. I think the Chargers could win this game, and I'm still taking. I think the Chargers could win this game, and I'm still taking Denver because it's a sneaky number at 2.5. I feel like it's a very baity line right now. Everyone seeing the Chargers 2-0 home game. But look, Bo Nix 0-2 as a favorite. This is where you want to play Bo Nix. Think about last year, how many games they were a dog and they were a sneaky team. This is the spot to back Denver. This is going to be the complete opposite of where the public wants to bet this game. You could probably wait. You're probably going to get threes and market by kickoff on Sunday throughout the week. So not something you have to run to the window to. I do not see this number coming down much at all. You may end up with a 2 if it does for a little bit, but I think the line closes right around 3, maybe even pushing 3.5, depending on how much the public gets involved here. I think you can get a great Denver spot. I can't imagine the public is going to like Denver. I think they're done with Denver, right? The people that waited the week 1, they open up a 7-point favorite against the Titans, went to 7.5, went to 8, went to 8.5, and closed 8.5. So all the public bettors Sunday morning wait till week 1. Those lines are out since the schedule release. And the people who missed that bet, the closing line was 8.5. Denver wins by 8. So 0-1 on the ATS for Denver there. Public pick was all over them against the Titans in week 1. They were all over them against Indianapolis. How can they look at Daniel Jones? That Daniel Jones isn't going to do this to them. I went with the public on my play last week because I had the same vibe. I was like, I just don't see Daniel Jones doing it. Ate my words. But this Denver defense is still legitimate. Now you're going into the Chargers are banged up already. With Khalil Mack injury last night was pretty
that was a big loss for them.
Big loss. They get some issues also in their secondary already. I think this is a spot where Denver comes in. Very close game either way, even if the Chargers win point or 2, but I'm taking Denver at 2.
Well, one, we know how these division games tend to go. And 2 is that's a sharp play because everyone and their mother is going to hop on LA at -2.5.
Beatty. Beatty line.
Yep.
Just these are the types of spots that I look for as we're going. And it's a huge game. If Denver loses this game, 2 games behind the Chargers, already with a loss to the Chargers, you're getting full desperate mode out of Denver and a pissed off team after what happened to them last week. So that's why I'm backing the Broncos here.
Yeah,
Justin, what do you think?
No, I love that. I mean, I told you at the beginning of the year, I said the Broncos could be my sneaky dark horse team to win the AFC. I love Denver. I think they got the best defense in football. I love Sean Payton. I think Bo Nix is the real deal. And I think they got a good complement of weapons around him, and not to mention one of the better O-lines in football. So it's like I look at Denver and I see a team that I think, even though I give them a ton of respect, I still think they're going to get some disrespect and be slept on a little bit this season in certain spots. And I think this is a great one to come out and take them, especially like you said, everything with the Chargers losing Khalil Mack. I think the Broncos are going to be in desperation mode. And if anything, they're going to be pissed off after the way they lost that game. The missed field goal by Lutz, the penalty at the end. It's like they're coming out ready to play next week, I think.
100%. 100%.
Give us 2 more, Matty. You said you usually do 4. You've given us 2 good ones so far. Give us 2 more.
All right, let's go through my list here. A couple of interesting ones. Looking at the board right now just to make sure I'm giving the right lines out here. I don't want to things change so quick, especially this time of week. Couple things I'm looking at is I'll say my favorite bet so far for the last. I'm looking at San Francisco -1.5. Caveat: I am a Niners fan, but I don't.
Yeah, you are a Niners fan.
I'm a gambler first.
I was going to ask you about that.
I'm a gambler first. In fact, I've bet against them more times on the show than I have for them. So this is not just like a homer pick that you're getting from me in this spot. But I really liked what I saw from Mac Jones last week. I could not believe the game plan where they just decided to let them throw 39 times with Mac Jones and run the ball with Christian McCaffrey 13 times. But Mac looked good. This is more about Kyle Shanahan. I mean, this guy has brought Jimmy Garoppolo to a Super Bowl, Brock Purdy to a Super Bowl. He has Mac Jones looking pretty good. They were without Kittle, obviously Ayuk still, banged up Jennings. It didn't matter. He's throwing at guys that, these the Tonjuses of the world, these tight ends. Like, who's this guy? But he still has Christian McCaffrey, and he still has Robert Saleh back as their defensive coordinator, which is massive for this team.
Well, let me tell you, because first of all, Justin and I both want to welcome you to the Mac Jones experience because we lived it for 3 years. And, we made a lot of excuses for him on this podcast when he was in New England. Yeah. But, I will say this. I'm rooting for Mac Jones. Mm-hmm. And I think he got a super raw deal here because I think Belichick was just so gone far beyond from being a good leader of this organization or coach in those final few years. The drafts were a mess. The locker room was a mess. Even the on-field game plans, I think, were antiquated at times. Look, the coach and the quarterback weren't even talking to each other. How is that functional? The defensive coordinator was going up the back stairs to get the head coaching job for when the coach, it was a freaking mess. And I feel like Mac Jones, I'm not saying he's John Elway Jr., but he got caught in the middle of a lot of BS. We all know famously, Kyle Shanahan almost took him with the number 3 pick. This is like one of those alternate reality scenarios. Now it's coming to fruition. We're going to finally see it. I'm rooting for Mac Jones.
There's a lot of rumors around like that 3rd pick overall. And I'll be the first to say, if you follow my Twitter or anything, you look back, I was very anti-Mac Jones at 3. I was like, please, hand up. I wanted Justin Fields at 3. They took Trey Lance. I was fine with it because it wasn't Mac Jones. I just didn't think that Mac Jones was going to be worthy of a number 3 overall pick. But I'm a guy on the couch, so what do I know? But what I do know is Kyle Shanahan really wanted him, and the stories from and the reports are that he wanted him at 3. John Lynch talked him off it, went with Trey Lance. Now that game last week was almost like an FU. This is my guy. This is who I wanted. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to throw the ball and prove to you that I can make Mac Jones a winning quarterback in this league and, silence the haters. And for that, I kind of love that confidence in giving that to Mac. He looked pretty good. I mean, overall, the other thing I support this pick, the thing that I like the most about this pick, aside from that, is late in the 4th quarter, the Cardinals lost their top 3 secondary guys. Like, They allowed Carolina to come back. They were up 20-3 in that game, and Carolina was doing absolutely nothing on offense. And all of a sudden, they have to go in. They're trying to play this prevent defense with these guys that they were bringing off the street for the most part. And Carolina's throwing all over them, moving the ball, almost coming down and winning that game in the end. So this Niners team just still has weapons on offense, and McCaffrey is still he looks like he's still in his prime, flying around, using him as a receiver, running the ball. He's perfectly fine. They still have Jennings, Ricky Pearsall. There's still weapons there. They're going to attack this team in the air, and Kyler's just too inconsistent for me. Home opener for the Niners. Big game. Arizona's 2-0. They've played, the Saints and the Panthers. Not to say the Niners' schedule has been, murderer's row here, but they did win in Seattle. Then they got the win in New Orleans last week. So very interesting game here, guys. I think the Niners, it's going to be a close one, this division game. The Cardinals do play the Niners well overall, but this one, I think the Niners get it done. Anything less than a field goal, I support San Francisco. My line makes it -3 for the Niners.
Give us one more quick one, and then
right.
We're going to do some of our around the league stuff, which you're welcome to stay for 100%, by the way.
Yeah, awesome. I'll give you a quick one. It's probably my favorite bet. Probably going to be my best bet when we release the podcast tomorrow. And it's probably one that you're going to be like, why?
I almost want to try and guess it.
Go ahead, try.
Rams at Eagles.
No, but that's going to be an interesting game. I'm going Chicago -1 against Dallas at home. And look, I am not a Caleb Williams fan. Not in,
Neither are we,
in
by
any
the way.
sense. Can't stand the guy. Don't think he has work ethic. I thought he was completely overrated in college. And they just lost their all-pro cornerback in Jalen Johnson against a Dallas team that wants to throw the ball. So why do I like Chicago? But no one is in a desperation spot more than the Chicago Bears. This franchise has just been crushed year after year after year after year. They get Ben Johnson. They're all excited. 0-2 yet again. But if you look back, week 1 was a little bit of a fluke loss. The Bears owned that game for 3 quarters. JJ McCarthy played out of his mind in the 4th quarter. And the Bears just collapsed in typical Bears fashion. But
typical Caleb Williams fashion.
Typical Caleb Williams.
To be honest, he collapsed.
Yes, typical Caleb Williams. Well, who's a fluke just like him? Usually it's Dak on the other side. So I think you can still see some turnovers in this game. Home game, your season's on the line. This Chicago team cannot start 0-3 for a team that had high hopes, win total of 9.5 in Vegas, which we supported the under on our podcast. But at the end of the day, Ben Johnson's a good coach. Rome Odunze, very bright spot in the first 2 weeks for Chicago. Last week was an impossible spot for them, going to Detroit after they get embarrassed by Green Bay and Lambeau in week 1. Now you go back home against Dallas, who put in extra effort to go beat the Giants 40-37. There's one thing you can really take advantage of with the Bears, and that's getting to the quarterback, rushing the passer. Well, guess what? They traded Micah Parsons before it, and what have they looked like in the first 2 weeks? They can't get anywhere near the quarterback, and that was against the Giants, who have a terrible offensive line. The Bears spent their offseason getting a brand new offensive line, spending a ton of money around him. Teams are still getting to Caleb. He's holding the ball too long, but the Cowboys are not a team that I think can take advantage of that. When he has time, he will find the guy. If he has any type of pressure, that's where he loses his mind. When he starts scrambling with the ball and trying to do too many things, that's where he gets in trouble. This Dallas defense cannot take advantage, in my opinion. I make this game -3 for the Bears. I love this because I don't think first of all, Dallas is such a public side every week. Doesn't matter. I think the professionals are also going to be on Dallas in this spot, but I just don't think they can take advantage of where you really can get to the Bears, where Minnesota did it on Monday night. And last week was just train wreck, impossible spot.
Justin, this game pits two of your least favorite podcast whipping boys, the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott against Caleb Williams. Which way do you go on this one?
I hate even having to pick just one of them in this situation. I don't know. Caleb Williams is, we have a phrase around here, Matt. We like to say talented losers, right? There's echelon of quarterbacks around the NFL that, you could argue the talent is there, but they're just losers. You're never going to be successful with them. You're never going to win a Super Bowl with them. They're going to let you down time after time. And I think Caleb Williams is surely one of those guys. I think you're right. The Bears, they're just so desperate at this point, right? And I would like to think that that Caleb Williams isn't as bad as we think he is. And I think he's bad. I think he's a loser, but like, I think there's talent in there. And he almost, we said this a few weeks ago, like to me, he's like Justin Fields-esque, where maybe he's got enough talent that any given week he can come out and like take over a game and dominate a game and use that athleticism to kind of open things up. And this could be a good opportunity for him to do that. And look, if anybody is sitting there, furious right now heading into week 3, it's Ben Johnson. Right?
Oh yeah.
Ben Johnson is probably seeing red right now. I mean, they're going to do everything possible, I think, to come out and win this game. And so, yeah, I would actually like to see Chicago come out and win, because we've talked about this. Like, it's better for the NFL if Chicago is a good team and if Caleb Williams is a serviceable quarterback.
I mean, they're a flagship kind of classic NFL franchise, that was like dominant in the heyday of the NFL, right? There's 85 Bears is a legendary team, one of the more legendary Super Bowl teams, arguably the best team in NFL history. And it's really been like downhill for 40 years since they won that Super Bowl. They've never had a franchise quarterback at any point in their history. They're the only NFL franchise that has never had a 4,000-yard passer. It's a 17-game schedule now, guys. I mean, that's not even that big a deal. Right. So it's like it's good for them, but Maddie, we trash Caleb Williams almost weekly to the point where people are listening to the podcast. It's like, I mean, and going back to college, I'll tell you the point I lost belief in him as a quote unquote special talent, which drives me crazy when people say that about him, was the USC Notre Dame game in his senior year. And just the way he folded under that pressure. You've seen that same player so many times in his first year plus in the NFL.
Yep, 100%. You couldn't be more spot on. The same thing for me. That game, he was a nightmare. 3 interceptions, just gave no chance for that team to win. And then losing and going and crying in his mom's arms. Like,
is that the game he cried, or was that a different game?
It was a different game, but like it all went downhill after that Notre Dame game. Like, I feel like his stock dropped a ton from like a respect wise. Is there talent? There's definitely talent there. Like the opening drive Monday Night Football, when they went right down the field against Minnesota, and he was doing things. I'm like, Ben Johnson's got him doing some things. Yep. There's talent there. It's just about consistency with him. Does he have the time? I think he gets the time in this game. I think they cash this ticket for us.
I think with him, it's a mental processing thing too.
That is,
and you
part
see
of it.
that a lot. Like, he came out on those first 10 passes, he looked like freaking Joe Montana, and then but when he gets into trouble, I don't know. I just feel like it's something about the way he sees the game or the field. I mean, I've never seen a quarterback run backwards as much as he runs backwards, and he still hasn't worked it out of his game yet. Yeah. And so I don't know. I just don't think it's ever going to happen. But in this particular spot, I don't hate the bet, because I mean, Dallas is a very flawed team too. So not a bad pick at all. Well, thank you for the picks. Do you want to stay? We're going to do some around the league stuff. I'll hang around. Stick around for a few minutes. All right, Justin, let's do some of our usual segments that we do. Victory laps or take our medicine. What do you want to do first, Justin?
Let's take our medicine. I got something I want to take my medicine on.
All right, so we're going to take our medicine here on the Dr. Football Podcast. Justin, you want to start? I got a big dose of medicine to take. Actually, I got a big dose to take today. So if you want to start, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll rip the Band-Aid off real quick. Look, I got all hyped week 1. Talking about Caleb Williams and that game against the Vikings. I got all hyped for JJ McCarthy, seeing the way he stuck around and he kept his poise and his composure, and he pulled it all together in the fourth quarter to come back and win. And I don't know, maybe I just let the hype get to me, but I came on here this past week, and I said that by the end of the season, he would be regarded as a top 10 quarterback. And after I watched the most recent performance against the Falcons, who I do think is actually one of the most underrated defenses in the NFL. I think the Falcons do have a very good defense and are a very good team. But that was not the way I was hoping for him to follow up that fourth quarter. And I think I'm going to take my medicine on that, because even if he winds up being a serviceable quarterback, and now he's injured, he's going to miss a couple weeks, I think, with an ankle or something like that. But I think the top 10 conversation is out of the window. So I'm going to take my medicine on that one.
Absolutely. Maddie, what do you think? JJ McCarthy?
It's so hard to tell because he looks like he's got problems. The one thing I'll say that early on is like he very clearly only throws to one side of the field. If you're looking at like the splits on the way he throws passes, he does not look left at all. He's right, takeoff. So he's got to fix that. That's one thing that's clear through the first couple of weeks, which coachable. He's with a great coach. Kevin O'Connell's a great quarterback coach. I mean, you get the best out of Sam Darnold. He's in the right spot. And Kirk Cousins. Yeah. I think he's got all the chance. He's got all the chance in the world to be good. Just more being consistency. I think he just needs time to play, right? Like
that's just it. And that's what I was gonna bring up next. And like, at what point do you worry about this guy's ability to stay on the field? I mean, he got hurt in training camp last year. I think he missed a valuable opportunity for development in his rookie year. Now he comes in his second game, he's hurt again. He's going to miss 4 weeks. They're saying now, we might not see this guy again until late October. So, they say the best ability is availability. I mean, when you're a young quarterback, you got to get reps in, and this guy is showing he can't stay healthy. So I think that is something you have to worry about with him.
Yeah, totally agree.
All right. Do you want me to take my medicine now, Justin?
Let's do it. Take your medicine.
It's early on, but I have to take medicine. A couple weeks ago on this podcast, I said that the Dallas Cowboys would be the winner of the Micah Parsons trade and that the Micah Parsons thing would not work that well in Green Bay. And I can already tell you from watching 2 games of Micah Parsons in Green Bay that I was dead wrong about that. Like, Micah Parsons has changed that Green Bay defense. He's not even fully ramped up yet. He's not even playing 3 downs, and you can already see the difference he's making. They started the year off with, I think, 2 big wins where this defense just looks like a different defense. It looks like a dominant defense, an aggressive defense. And I'm willing to come on here and take my medicine right now that my initial reaction to the Micah Parsons trade was dead wrong. And this is going to work in Green Bay. Green Bay, I think, is now a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah. I mean, you're hard pressed to find another team that's looked better than Green Bay through these first 2 weeks, right? I mean, the offense, the defense, they seem deep on both sides of the ball. Jordan Love is playing well, and I think I think we all love their coach and have liked their coach for a while now. So yeah, I like Green Bay, and I think you're right. I think they've kind of eased Micah Parsons into it. I don't think he was an every down player the last 2 weeks, but I think he will be, as he continues to get a little healthier with the back and assimilate into that defense. And I think it's going to work out just fine for Green Bay. They look great so far.
Don't feel bad about calling me stupid, Matt, just because it's your
listen, I kind of leaned your way, but you guys already nailed it on the head. Green Bay looks like the best team in the league right now. I mean, they're but long way to go. I'll say that. And with Parsons, he is he's special. He's special talent getting to the quarterback. I kind of lead your way, though, early on in this. You can still run the ball right at that guy. Like the Niners, every time he would talk so much trash about playing San Francisco, and they'd run right at him and right by him. So he does have his weaknesses for as good of a player as he is, but there is just no one like him rushing the passer. And when he gets healthy, he is just that defense was really good to begin with. Now they're adding him. Now you're talking like legit. Right.
It's like the capstone on a pretty good defense to begin with. And the other thing, and I know it can be a little dangerous to do this, but I'm just in a very primitive way, I'm looking at what they did to Detroit. And I know it's grass versus turf and home versus road, fine. What they did to Detroit, and then what Detroit did to Chicago last week. And I mean, that does catch my eyes a little bit and be whoa, Detroit got stymied by Green Bay, and then they just went and shellacked and hung 50 on the Bears. Mm-hmm. I think that does make me take notice.
Totally.
All right, Justin, you want to take your victory lap?
My victory lap. Okay. The victory lap, I think, is a little, I don't know, it's a little tougher. I'm trying to think back to what I said last week. I mean, some of my victory laps got spoiled I made the JJ McCarthy prediction. I wanted to take a medicine on that. I said it was going to be a get right game for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. He got hurt.
That's a good one. Yeah.
But
that's a good one to take medicine on.
Well, you know what? Look, I feel like that's kind of null and void, right? Because I feel like a Joe Burrow injury is it's tough. I wasn't completely wrong about that, right? I said Jamar Chase would bounce back. The Bengals would win. They did, but Burrow obviously got hurt. I'm trying to think, what was my third take last week, Dennis? What was I said?
I don't remember. I'm still flabbergasted over your Giants over Commanders pick in week 1 that I can't even.
Yeah, I could take double medicate actually. Maybe I don't even deserve a victory lap this week. Maybe I just take a double medicine. I got 2 victory laps if you want to pass on the opportunity. I'll take yours. I got 2. Number 1 goes back a few years, which is I've been all over Baker Mayfield as being really someone that was a distressed asset, someone that got a completely raw deal in Cleveland. How do you think a Cleveland Browns fan feels today after watching what Baker Mayfield has been able to do and what he did on Monday night and what he's really been able to do, not only these first 2 weeks, but these last 2+ years? Baker Mayfield, it really is one of the most amazing personnel mistakes that probably doesn't get talked about enough, is that the fact the Browns just threw this guy in the trash and he kicked around to 2 other teams, Carolina and the Rams, and now he's found a home in Tampa Bay and he's playing at an MVP level through the first 2 weeks. The guy is a stud and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And I just think that, that needs to be recognized. Yeah, I think you're totally right. I mean, Baker, and let's not forget too, after Baker leaves Cleveland, he bounces around. He goes to Cleveland, he goes to LA, right? Both kind of which let him walk. So it wasn't even just the Browns, but the Browns certainly had the biggest hand in terms of the blunder. But yeah, I think if you're the Browns fan, you spend all those years and all those picks and all the draft capital and whatnot trying to find a franchise quarterback, and then you bring in somebody like Baker, and he showed a little bit of promise. And I mean, I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to remember it correctly, but I'm pretty sure you let him walk the year after he almost beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, right? If I'm remembering that correctly.
That's right.
So it's like,
it's amazing.
So it's not like he just came out and totally dropped the ball. I don't really understand what they were thinking, and I'm glad that he's making them, eat their words. And not only that, but you think about it, he goes to Tampa, and he's got to fill the shoes for Tom Brady, who showed up there and won a Super Bowl. So it's like, Baker has really had that chip on his shoulder. And I love that he settled into Tampa Bay and turned them into a viable, contender for all intents and purposes.
Right. You talk about rebuilding. Yeah. And it's like they didn't rebuild. They hit the ground and they kept going with Mayfield from Brady to Mayfield.
Yeah, seriously.
They chose Deshaun Watson over him is what they ended up doing. And that has to kill them. Right. Like you finally had a guy, especially doing what Baker's doing. Couldn't agree more. Baker's a top 10 quarterback in the league at this point. I can't see it any other way.
Yeah. Totally agree.
And you're rolling out there with you got 43-year-old Joe Flacco. Deshaun Watson's on a massage table somewhere. Yeah. And you got a cocky 5th round pick that has an overinflated opinion of himself, and you're watching Baker Mayfield play at MVP level, and it's not like he didn't have success in Cleveland. I mean, he had success.
Yeah, exactly. No, they really screwed the pooch on that one. And like you said, you look at them right now, and they don't know whether they're coming or going with that quarterback room. You keep hearing Shador Sanders or Dylan Gabriel. I'll tell you what, neither of those guys are going to be franchise quarterbacks in the NFL. Yeah,
there's a reason they went in the 5th round, right? All right. Yeah. 3 into the future, where we make 3 picks for the upcoming future, short or long term. The floor is yours, Justin. You want to make a pick?
All right. Yeah. I'll start for week 3. I was looking at some of the spreads. And normally if I said 12.5 points, that's a lot. Right. And I'm looking specifically at Buffalo in Miami. In Buffalo, and I know 12.5 points is a lot, especially for a divisional matchup. But I got to tell you something. You could double that, and I'm still taking Buffalo. I think this is going to be a 40 to 6 route. I think Buffalo is going to absolutely pants the Miami Dolphins, put the cherry on top of what's been a disgraceful first couple weeks. We've said dating back to the offseason. The Dolphins are going to finish last in the AFC. Mike McDaniel is going to be one of the first coaches, if not the first coach, to get fired in the NFL. And they are well on their way to that. And that is not going to lighten up week 3 in Buffalo. I think Buffalo is going to absolutely demolish them.
See you nodding your head there, Matt.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This is a spot where, remember I was telling you guys earlier, like teams that are 0-2 against spread, yada, 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 throw it out the window for this game. If you're betting the Dolphins, like, good luck to you. I can't, you cannot, it's the Bills or nothing for me. I couldn't agree more. You could make this game -20 and I wouldn't take, like you said, 24. Yeah. I'm with you. I wouldn't take the Dolphins. I think they're a dead franchise. This is a team that's 0-2 that does not have any desperation to them. I think they hate each other. The Tyreek Hill situation is a disaster. The Mike McDaniel situation is a disaster. I said they might fire him if they lose to the Patriots last week. And I can totally see them getting blown out and then send him packing right now.
It's early. Justin picked in the preseason, Matt, that Mike McDaniels would be the first coach fired. He's actually the favorite now for that. So that was a great pick. It's very early. But is there a pathway for McDaniels to get fired this week if the Bills throttle the Dolphins, coming off the loss to the Patriots, the embarrassing loss to the Patriots? Is there any way that McDaniels is out on the long week after the Thursday night game?
There's definitely a path. If they get buried, I support it at this point. I don't see how you can bring him back. It feels like he's lost the locker room. You know, the locker room's a mess anyway, but like, I don't see how they can fix this or turn it around. I just don't. Like, they have talent, but when you're one of your leaders is Tyreek Hill, you're like all the offseason stuff, and then comes in and they're just not right. They're just not. There's something wrong there. And if they get blown out, which I do expect them to get blown out, fully support that pick. I think that's going to be a long, long flight home to Miami.
I mean, this is one of those spots where it's like a referendum on, does the team really want to fight for their coach?
Right.
And my sense is the answer to that is no, they don't. And just so you know, Mike McDaniels is like our Caleb Williams of coaches. Like he's like our favorite podcast whipping boy. We've been, saying that he's a total fraud for like 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to give you my first pick into the future, and you're going to like this one. We hit on this a little while ago, but I want to bring this one up again. The 2021 quarterback class is a total disaster if you really look at it. All 5 of them, I think, have underperformed. I'm not going to go so far as to say that Mac Jones will ultimately prove to be the best quarterback of that group. But what I am going to say right now is that Mac Jones is going to make a quarterback controversy in San Francisco. Like he's going to make it a controversy with Brock Purdy.
Wow. You've been wanting this forever, right? That is,
I have.
You've wanted to see Mac Jones flourish under Shanahan, and you're getting the opportunity. Will he make it a controversy? I mean, you just signed Purdy to that big contract. I mean, one of the things that in maybe even from just a pure performance standpoint, I could see Mac Jones going out there and playing well. But like, I look at what's happened with that 49ers organization where you just had to eat crow and trade away Trey Lance after, you moved up for him. You blew all the draft capital on him, and then you wound up having to go with your 6th round pick. I can't see them signing Brock Purdy to a, what is it, 40, 50 something $50 million deal?
$52 million.
Yeah, $52 million deal. And then benching him for Mac Jones when he's healthy, just from a pure optics standpoint. But I do see what you're saying in the sense that Mac Jones could have a resurgence. That seems to be the popular thing now. These quarterback resurgence when they go change to a new organization and get put in a better position. And I think it would be pretty interesting. I think it would be fun to see Mac Jones go ball.
Interesting take. I'll say this about Purdy. Purdy's also one of just Kyle's guys. Like that is one thing. Like I think Purdy's a better quarterback overall. His scrambling ability is a big difference maker than like what they'll get with Mac. Mac can move a little bit better than you realize, but like Purdy makes so many plays with his feet, and his game is a lot of it is up here. What we hate about Caleb Williams, Purdy's the exact opposite. He plays so smart up in his head. Now, he does make some throws that make you take a deep breath. But like at the end of the day, I don't hate what you're saying, because I think he's getting Kyle fixed Sam Darnold before Darnold went to Minnesota. Like he's just great with quarterbacks. It doesn't matter really who. If you can't succeed with him, you're not going to succeed in the league. I really believe
I just want to see the like, like the line from the Joker, like some people just like to see the world burn. Like I just want to see like the dogma of New England, and that Mac Jones is like just a total bomb and failure. I just have to see what happens when that gets, if he has success out there, like that getting ripped down and challenged, and just like how people here would lose their minds.
Yeah.
It would be entertaining.
Yeah, I don't hate the take. I don't see him replacing Purdy. If Purdy gets back in a couple weeks, if Mac shows out well, the best thing that can happen for Mac Jones is he plays well, he gets the opportunity. And look, teams always need quarterbacks, right? We talk about Baker, we talk about Sam Darnold, you talk about these guys who get that second, third chance. Can you make the best of it? I think that's best case scenario for Mac. But personally, as a Niner fan, interesting. You give $52 million, and now all of a sudden 2 to 5 week injury. Here we go. So yeah, the door's open for it.
Yeah, and this isn't Purdy's first injury either. All right, Justin, we're running short. We're running a little long on time, so let's give our last two each relatively quick. Give me another pick for the future. Let's go to lightning round.
All right, this one's going to be a little bit spicy, but I'm going to give it a caveat. Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying it is all dependent on Justin Fields being healthy for this game. But if Justin Fields is healthy, I love the 6.5 points that the Jets are getting, and I could even see the Jets winning. I think the Jets, they've played 2 tough games back-to-back weeks. They're 0-2. They're kind of getting a little bit of desperation.
You're saying at Tampa.
Now. At Tampa. They really got nothing to lose. And they say the best time to beat a good team is after they're coming off of a battle, right? And Tampa is back-to-back battles. They had to battle and squeak it out against Atlanta, and they had to battle and squeak it out last night in Houston. This could be, I think, a letdown spot. As much as I like Baker Mayfield in Tampa, this could be a letdown game for the Bucs with a Jets team that's got nothing to lose in a decent defense.
I love this pick. I actually couldn't agree with you more. And I'm going to go even a step further, Justin. Isn't Gardner Minshew the backup for the Jets?
I don't hate that either. If Gardner
Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I almost like this pick, even if Tyrod Taylor is playing quarterback. I'm not sure if Tyrod Taylor is that far of a drop off from Justin Fields. Right. I think Tampa's coming off a Monday night road win in a tough situation that they have to slug it out for 4 quarters against a Jets team that is really, again, desperate, playing for their season. So I actually love the Jets with 7. I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of dogs bite this week. I really do.
Yeah, totally.
Maddie?
Full agreement here. The Jets may make my card on my podcast. We're doing it tomorrow. I'm looking at the rest of these games. I wait till the morning of, because lines change. Speaking of lines changing, 3 books while we were talking just now changed. Chargers -3.
There you go. Wow.
That's what's happening.
Like, this moves fast this time of week. Okay, my number 2 is very simple. The Jacksonville Jaguars really gave up an arm and a leg in draft capital to move up and get Travis Hunter. And what in these first 2 weeks has made you feel like it was actually a good move or worth it? I'm not saying that I'm giving up on Travis Hunter, but what I'm saying is that at some point in the next few weeks, he's going to have to pick a side of the ball, because it feels like, for whatever reason, the whole 2-sided thing, it hasn't really started off that well. And when you invest those kind of resources in a player, I feel like you either want him to be an exceptional corner or an exceptional receiver. What you don't want is a mediocre corner and a below average receiver, which is what they've gotten through the first 2 weeks. So I think Travis Hunter is going to have to pick a side at some point in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's looked okay. I think, I don't want to say he's looked bad, but I think, like, to your point, he hasn't looked like an absolute game changer out there, right? We haven't really seen him do much on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, he's been good, not great. And I think the Jaguars, just as a whole, that offense has been a little underwhelming if there's anybody I hate more than Caleb Williams, it's Trevor Lawrence. I have Trevor Lawrence as the king, the president, the CEO of the Talented Loser Club.
Yeah, he's the king of the Talented Losers.
He really is. And I mean, I really thought that, with Brian Johnson, Brian Thomas Jr. in Travis Hunter, that this team's going to kind of come out and light it up the first couple of weeks against two soft defenses, right? The Panthers and the Bengals, and they've really underwhelmed. So I got to agree with you. Hunter hasn't been anything special.
Agree again, guys. Yeah, I like these takes. I have not seen what you would expect to that draft capital was a lot. Usually move up, use that for a quarterback.
Right.
They did it for a wide receiver / cornerback. And my concern as always, he's not the greatest route runner and he's an undersized corner. So, and if you're confident in Trevor Lawrence, which I'm not, it doesn't sound like you guys are.
Not in the least.
I agree. Picking a side is probably best for his career.
In fact, what's his name? Liam Cohen, Duval. He's already pissed at Trevor Lawrence. They had a big argument on the sideline this week. He's already fed up with him too. So, good luck with that. Okay, Justin, your last one.
My last one. I know it's again another divisional game. But I'm sorry, I just don't see how the Falcons don't cover 6.5 against the Panthers. I think the Falcons have a great defense. I think Bryce Young has looked awful the first couple of weeks. I think that defense is going to completely overwhelm Carolina. I think the Falcons are going to get stronger each week as long as they can stay healthy. And I can see a double-digit victory in Carolina. I think they cover 6.5.
Yeah, for me, I'll chime in on this one. The look ahead on this was mine. They were 3.5 point favorites before Sunday Night Football, and that felt wild. Carolina can't stop the run. And if you listen to my podcast last couple of years, Carolina was a moneymaker for us last year, especially towards the end of the season. We have high hopes for them, but they just look like the team that showed up early season last year, not the team that showed up late. I don't know how they're going to stop Bijan Robinson. They haven't been able to stop anyone in the first 2 weeks of the season. And Bijan's clearly, in my opinion, the best running back in football right now. Good luck to them. Anything under 7, I wouldn't touch the Carolina side.
Yep. Yeah, this number looks big, which makes me concerned too that Vegas is trying to rope us into taking those 6.5 points with Carolina. On the podcast last week, my medicine was for Bryce Young because I actually, like you, I had expectations for him coming into this year. I thought he salvaged his career last year. It's been super underwhelming and disappointing. There was a little bit of signs of life at the end of the game against Arizona, but obviously, it's not much. So I think that, to me, that's a game I fade. I don't want to go either way on that one, but I do think that you bringing up the point about the run defense is interesting. Okay. I'm debating between 2 for my last one, but I'm going to take it back to Foxborough because we're going to wrap up soon. And I want to end on this. 3 into the future. This is my third. The Patriots are going to outright beat the Pittsburgh Steelers this week in Foxborough. I like the Patriots in this spot. I know that the Steelers got off to a fast start against the Jets. I thought they were really underwhelming last week against Seattle. I think the Steelers are going to be a respectable team this year, but I just have a feeling that the Patriots are going to come into this game with a lot of momentum. Is it crazy to say they may have the better quarterback? I don't know. Where Aaron Rodgers is right now, I'm not too impressed. Overall, I just have a feeling at home the Patriots are going to win this game this weekend.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the big tipping point in that game is going to be: do you have Christian Gonzalez back to at least be somewhat healthy and play a role stopping DK Metcalf? Because I'll tell you what, I don't think if Christian Gonzalez isn't out there, I think DK Metcalf could have a field day on the likes of Carlton Davis and Alex Austin and some of those guys. So I really hope Gonzalez is out there. But I love that. I love that pick. And I think the Patriots are 1.5 point dogs right now. So
they're 1.5 point dogs.
2.5. Okay. Yeah.
What is it, Maddie? 2.5.
Just moved to 2.5 on DraftKings and in other books.
Yep.
So the money's going on Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Yeah. So
it's a funny game too because when I already took it, which was probably stupid because now it looks like the line is moving the other way. But I was looking at the money line, and this is one of those cases where both teams were minus money on the money line. There was no cheap. I can get the Pats at plus 120 or 130 and try to do that. They were both minus money.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's defense has been the problem, and everyone just like we kind of all crowned them to be so good, but they're pretty old if you start to look at it.
Yeah.
And they've gotten good play out of Jalen Ramsey, which I'm kind of surprised about because he looked like he was fading last couple of years. He's played well. That defense has not played well. They just lost Hightower to a high ankle sprain. They looked awful after he left the field last week. This is a watch game for me. I could see it going either way. It's too many question marks, at least at this point in the week. Gonzalez is a huge bonus for the Pats if they get him back. Obviously, he's their best defensive player. Going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Pittsburgh defense has been terrible too. And the part of me that worries about this game is just like, look, is Pittsburgh's defense really this bad? Like, I mean, they have a lot of name players on that defense, a lot of money invested. They were really good last year. They've looked awful through two weeks. That is the one thing that gives me a little pause. I'm like, could this defense really be as bad as they've looked the first 2 weeks?
One thing I'll add to that, and then I'll shut up for you guys so you can wrap. But this Pittsburgh defense, I agree with you, a bunch of names, but a lot of old guys. And are we starting to see them all take a step back or even a half step back? If you have all these guys and half of them start to take a step back, that's a huge problem in this league. So, if the Jets can run all over them, there's problems. So we're going to see. Do we mix Travion a little bit more into the mix this week? That's something I'm looking for. I think they're using him wisely. Don't mix him in. I think they start to mix him in a little bit more. I think he has a sneaky good game in this game.
Yeah, how about the people that took him in like the 4th round in their fantasy leagues?
They're begging for them to play him and get him in there and have a sneaky good game.
Yeah. I mean, I had a guy who took him in. This is a big money league. It's usually a very competitive league. I had a guy who took him in the 2nd round, and you are not going to get a return on that draft capital this year unless something drastically changes. And I guess the last thing I'll say about this matchup is, it's a great opportunity for the Patriots to build some momentum. I'm looking at their schedule now. The next 3 games. Panthers, Bills, Saints. Obviously, the Bills is going to be a tough one. I think we would expect the Bills to win that, right? Not to say the Patriots can't make that competitive, but I think the Panthers is a win. I think the Saints is a win. If you can beat the Steelers and you come out on the other side of this stretch at 4-2, I think you're going to be feeling really good about this team and where they're 100%. At. And I think this is a team that in classic Patriots fashion is going to get better as the season goes on. So I think you got a big opportunity to come out and build some momentum and steal a win here.
Right. And for a team that has been really essentially out of it before Halloween the last 2 years. I mean, it would be nice even if they drop one of them, even if they're 3-3 or 4-3 going into the end of October,
right?
Even 4-4, that's going to feel really good because they've been so far out of it so soon in the last few years. All right. Any other final thoughts before we wrap it up, boys?
That does it for me.
Nothing awesome. From here. Thank you guys for having me. Love being a part of your show, and happy to come on anytime you guys want.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely have you back sometime. Really appreciate the great picks, and we're holding you accountable because I'm totally invoicing you this week if these picks are
listen,
bad.
I'm telling you, I already have my Take My Medicine segment lined up just in case.
Yeah, there you go. Well, no, I want to thank everyone that listened. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Matty P. Everyone have a great week. Be healthy, be well, be safe. We'll catch you next week with another episode of the Doctors Football Ultimate Patriots podcast. Enjoy the games this week, everyone.